Hey guys, and welcome to Emphatic Grace. I don't know why I did that, but anyway, so today I would like to talk to you guys about the prophetic. What is true prophecy and what the prophetic is not, right? And there's been so much happening around the world when it comes to the prophetic, especially in our country, South Africa, especially in our continent, Africa. There's just been so much happening around the prophetic, and a lot of false prophets rising up, being exposed. As a result of that, people are skeptical about the prophetic. As a result of that, people just don't want to associate or to have anything to do with the prophetic. And so I I want to share with you a bit of my own personal story in relation to the prophetic and my journey in the prophetic. So there's this thing, right, that our people do in the church, that a person who's just newly born again, or who's just young and just growing in the faith, and then they exhibit certain gifts, right, that God has placed in them. And then a person would, and sometimes, because God will use whoever he wants to use, and sometimes it was a once-off thing that God did, and then they spoke through the person to give a word to someone, and then someone then in that moment, in a moment of appreciation with all good intent, would just say, "Oh, you have a great gift, you're a prophet," and whatnot. And that's what happened with me, right? After I got born again, God started using me in the prophetic, and just giving words to people. As it was mostly in word of knowledge, and words of wisdom that God used me. And so with that, people started saying, "Oh, you have a prophetic gift, you're a prophet," and people start calling you prophet, woman of God, in and all those things. So I had a desire to know more about the prophetic. I had a desire to understand what this gift is, and how to use it, and how it works, because in all honesty, it's quite a complex gift if you don't know how it actually, how God actually works it in the person. So, and I understand why a lot of people end up like just blowing things out of proportion. But fine, years went by, and I encountered a lady, this woman who God led me to, and she had one job. She had one job, guys. And that one job was to actually just get me into the word, and teach me more about the prophetic, and teach me more about the word, right? We're just supposed to do that. So because of that, now I had to move from the church that I was in and be in her church, right? Be part of her church. And there was a very specific instruction that God gave as to how it's supposed to happen. And after I had moved to her church, now before I moved from the church I was into her church, we had both just been praying about what God was saying, and God was, confirming things like in visions and dreams, and speaking to us in and saying the same things to us. And she was honestly just overwhelmed by what God was saying, and what God was revealing to us, and but what he wants to do through us, her and I, and in her just engaging and just taking that time to get me into the word and share with me the things that God has actually revealed to her. So cool. I moved to her church, and when I got there, I just got the sense that she's not about what God said anymore, right? And like a person's life can be completely turned upside down because of one person's decision and one person's disobedience to God. So I was there, and God had warned me about her resistance towards the whole thing before I moved to the church, and had like instructed me to pray. And so I'd been praying for her. So I thought maybe I know, things are cool. And I got there, and she literally, like, she actually uttered words that God had said to me about, how she's actually not going to do what she's going to do. And she said those exact words. And I was so taken aback. I was like, Lord, she's really not going to do this. So I was annoyed. I was frustrated because, for a long time I'd been wanting this. I wanted to know more about the prophetic. I wanted to understand. And here was this opportunity that I saw, and I felt like, oh man, this is it. Finally I'm getting someone who's actually going to teach me and show me. And then she's just like, nah, she's not going to do that. So at the same time as that was happening, there was a guy who was a friend of mine who was starting his ministry, was also into the prophetic. And I'd been learning from him and a couple of other guys that were, there was like a group of friends. I'd been learning a couple of things and hearing from them about the prophetic and whatnot. And they were very much into the modern day prophet that is living it up. And the guys that man, like they were following abantu abafana no Makandiwa and O Bushiri and Ubid Angel. They were like into those guys, right? And so it was that thing. So I thought, oh man, because I want now, like, this desire and this thing of wanting to know more about the prophetic has been raised up even more inside of me, right? And so now I apologize for the noise in the background if you can hear that. So now I'm like, okay, cool, let me just go to this guy's church and thingy, and just just help my friend build his church. He's starting his church from scratch. Just help him build his ministry. So I go to him, I go to his church, and I become a member, a part of that church. And I decide, okay, cool, submit to him, whatever those things mean. So now a couple of months go by, right? Like, this guy's given me, like, when we're just friends, like, would sometimes just sit and just listen and pray together and hear from God and say, this is what God's saying, this is what God's saying, this is what we see, and all this stuff. And he had given me, words before that were accurate and actually came to pass. And so here I was, like 2-3, I don't think I did 4 months there. I don't think I finished. Maybe 3 months into that. And I realized it was just a big show, and he was, submitting to another one of these prophets that I mentioned. And so, well, he was submitting to someone who was submitting to someone, like, but anyway, it was a whole chain connected to these guys that you guys see on social media and on the internet and on TV and whatnot, that are playing the big games, filling up stadiums, filling up churches, filling up auditoriums with huge amounts of people, and really just ripping them off, right? So I was there, and a couple of months in, I'm just like, man, I can't find Jesus in this. Like, but where's Jesus? It's a very, I don't know how to call it. Like, there's a very smart way, a smart thing that they do, and they use the word, and you'll think that they're teaching the word. But if you really know Jesus, if you really know the character of God, you'll realize that this word is being used and twisted in a very subtle way to hype people up, to just keep pumping hope in people and keep telling them, like just to keep getting people to keep giving, because they've been hyped up and being pumped up by this whole show and charade that they put on. And it was always just like a whole lot of energy. There was always a lot of energy. There was never a still service where it was just still and we just hear the word and we worship and then you just go home and cry. There was always going to be there's going to be that hype up of, the man of God is going to speak, the man of God is going to prophesy, and then it was a lot. And I was just like, where's Jesus? I can't find Jesus in this. I don't see Jesus. I'm not like the Jesus and the God that I know, I'm not seeing in this. So I left that and I was just like, Lord, I want to know, I want you to teach me about the prophetic. I want you to just show me what the prophetic is. And he did just that. And the whole time, everything was just there in the Bible, because, that is where God reveals himself truly. And I learned that, the prophetic is not all this flashy lifestyle and that these guys portray. That the prophetic is not, it's not about fulfilling our selfish desires, because that's what a lot of it is in those churches. It's about, let me just say this, that the prophetic is also not a word of knowledge alone or a word of wisdom, but God will use a word of knowledge to affirm his prophecy. He will use a word of knowledge so that the person can actually believe, right? So you'll find that a lot of these guys will talk about oh, I see this, I see that in your life. Come, let me pray for you. And you're just like, yeah, but what's God saying though? Right? Sure, cool. You see those things. It's a word of knowledge. You're realizing that's what's happening, but that's not a prophetic word. Because if you trace through the scriptures, whenever God would give a prophetic word, the people that God called his prophets, whenever he spoke to them or gave them a message for someone, when God sent Moses to the Israelites, that was a prophetic word. It was God saying, go tell Pharaoh to let my people go, right? So there was a declaration of what God is going to do. He's going to release the people of Israel, right? That's what he was supposed to tell the Israelites. But there was also something that Moses had to do in order for that to happen, and that was to go tell Pharaoh to let his people go. And in all of that, it was up to God to actually do the work. So God does what he says he will do, right? When we obey what he says we must do, right? Like, you get me? So, and you'll find that throughout scripture, every time God would bring a prophetic word, whether it was for something positive or it was a prophetic word of correction, but he always declared what he is going to do, which more than oftentimes was way out of our ability, is way out of the human ability to actually fulfill that which God said he's going to do. But there was also an instruction that required human obedience to that, right? So now when these guys just keep saying, Guti, I come, receive, nah guys, receive from where? From what? From who? Right? And it's just like, I speak money, receive. And you're just like, prophesy, man of God. No, which God said that? That he's just throwing money out there, for the people. Those things, right? Those things are not of God. The thing is, God loves us so much that he will not give us things that he knows that we cannot handle. And so a lot of people get frustrated because some guy or some lady or some girl, some woman, some whatever, some dude said to them that, oh, I see this and that, and God is going to do it for you. and saying, I release your car, I release this and that. And all they did was get a word of knowledge, because they were just able to pick up in your spirit what it is that you desire and tell you about what you desire, what you already know about yourself, and just say, yeah, receive, it's coming, it's coming. Like, no, guys, like, no, that's not God. And these things get people mad at God because they feel like, oh, God now didn't do what he said. God didn't say that. God didn't say he's going to do that. The person just saw what you want, and then they say that you're going to get it. So, like, I urge you to get into the scriptures, to study the scriptures, so that you can actually know the character of God. So that when anyone teaches or preaches or prophesies, or they say, or whatever, anything that is not in line or in alignment with the character of God, you will know. You will definitely know. And that is why I have a podcast now called the Bible Literacy Podcast. Sorry. It's called the Bible Literacy Podcast. And it's available on Spotify and Google Podcast. So, like, just get to know God and get to know the character of God, so that you can be able to discern even in your own church, because humans will always make mistakes. And I'm not saying now you must leave your church that one time because of that one time that maybe your pastor or your leader, said something out of context, or, because they're also teaching from what they've learned. Understand that, and they're also still learning, and they're probably also still growing. Give room, give grace for people to make mistakes and to grow. Like, it doesn't give you the right to now be bashing them, be like, oh no, false prophet or false teacher or whatever, and walk away. No, remain where God has said you must be, and learn and ask God why he has placed you where you are, so that you can know what you're supposed to bring, because we're all supposed to bring something to the table so that everyone can benefit. So, yeah, God bless you, and grace be with you. I love you.